Well, friends, in the month of August, compasses around the world stop pointing due north and they all point towards Memphis. That's because Elvis Week is right around the corner. And whether you're a diehard fan or simply just recognize his name, there's no denying the global impact of the King of Rock and Roll. But behind the rhinestones, behind the music, behind the mansion, there's a living legacy that's being preserved carefully right here in Memphis, and that's why I have my special guest here today. Now, before we get to her, I want to make sure and say thank you to Lexus of Memphis. Honored to be partnering with them. Our guest here today just happens to be a proud owner of a Lexus from Lexus of Memphis, and we're going to talk about everything, but first let me welcome Alicia Dean. Alicia is the Marketing, Promotions, and Events Specialist for Elvis Presley Enterprises. Of course, that's known to all of us as Graceland. She's seen it all from the quiet moments to behind the scenes. She's been around the world. This is a longtime Graceland insider who's worked there how long?
18 years.
18 years, and she's going to give us insight into how Elvis is really being introduced to a whole new generation. So what does the future of Graceland look like? Why does Elvis still matter 50 years after he's passed? We're going to talk about all of that and more. Welcome to The Current Temp. I'm Joey Solopek. Alicia, thank you for being here.
Joey, I am so happy to be here. No one knows our insider trading, if you will, like you do, because again, you've been working with us for 25 years.
I've kept secrets for 25 years.
You have.
All right, listen. Elvis Week 2025.
Oh, yeah.
48th anniversary of the passing of the King of Rock and Roll. He would have been 90 this year. Is that correct?
That's
Did
correct.
I get that right?
Yep.
What I've got on the screen right here is a picture I took. I think this was Elvis Week 2004. And we're going to talk more about history, but this is the candlelight vigil on the screen. By the way, if you're listening to this podcast, there's several ways to watch the video portion of this podcast, either on my Facebook page or on YouTube. You can get it there. If you're on Spotify, you're going to have to come back and see these photos. Let's start with Elvis Week this year. By the way, friends, every year, Elvis Week, just think about it this way, starts just before the middle of the month. Elvis passed on the 16th, and so this year's festivities begin August 8th through the 16th, and tens of thousands of people are going to travel here from across the planet to take part in concerts, panels, fan events, and of course the Candlelight Vigil, which, by the way, starts at 8:30.
It does. 8:30 on the 15th.
It's free and will last as long as there are guests there. It's a magical event if you've never taken part. All right. Let's start with this. I'm going to start with this slide behind us.
Okay.
One of the things I think, Alicia, that has made Elvis such a touchstone and such a really impact ripples around the world is the fact that he was so influential for 3 decades. Right? So on the screen, I've got him 50s, 60s, and 70s, where he evolved, he changed, he grew. Of course, there was some waxing and waning, but I think part of this story, and I want your thoughts on this, is the fact that he was so influential through so many people's lives, from kids to teenagers to young adults. What are your thoughts?
You know, you nailed it perfectly, actually. And when you watch that evolution of Elvis, what's interesting to me is when you ask somebody, you know, which Elvis do you like? Do you like the 50s, 60s, 70s? Everybody really kind of has a preference, and it really kind of matches with their age. Like, you see that because they find that relevance within themselves to which Elvis they like. So if you asked me, I'm going, well, I liked Elvis, you know, like in the 68 special. Well, maybe 10 years ago, I'm going, oh, I love the 50s Elvis, because there's a lot of relatability. And I think that's because, again, you know, Elvis is so unique and so like transcendent. Again, you look at him and you go, he's a star that could walk out the door right now and still look like he belongs in 2025, right? There's just that look, that charisma, that aura that he had. And I think that definitely transcends over generations as well. So, I mean, there's just so many different levels of Elvis, and not only on like a personal level, but just things that he loved that people find that within themselves too. Again, he loved karate. And there are people that are going, oh, I didn't know Elvis liked karate. I like karate.
Yeah.
You know, Elvis loved football. Elvis loved, you know, I mean, again, his clothing. I mean, there's people that love fashion around the world, and they go, gosh, Elvis really was like the best dressed guy. You know what I mean?
He was cutting edge.
And he loved technology. That's another thing. I mean, so I could go on the list of things that Elvis loved that we can actually display and showcase and tell those stories. And that's what is so fascinating to me, is that, again, Elvis reaches a mass of people, obviously, by music and movies, right? And that popularity. But then when you break it down, that's where people get really sucked in because they go, oh, I didn't know that about Elvis. I didn't know he was so charitable. I didn't know that, he lived at Graceland for 20 years. He loved his home in Memphis. I mean, he had a home in LA. He visited Hawaii a lot, but Memphis was home. And I think that really hits people. He's from the South. He, has just so many things that you can relate back to. And I think that's why he's carried on for so many generations. And on top of that, just talking about generations, if you want to go there, because I like to call Elvis a family heirloom that gets passed down from generation to generation.
Right.
And I think that that's really unique. And I've learned that throughout the years just by talking to fans that visit. I say, why do you come here? What brought you to Graceland? And they say, oh, my mom was an Elvis fan. My grandmother was an Elvis fan. I remember growing up listening to Elvis records throughout the home, and that brings them that sense of nostalgia, those
connects
memories.
Them to those people.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, he's definitely a part of people's families. And that's why I think Graceland is so special because, you have this love for an artist, right? We could be fans of anybody. If you think about your favorite musician or, band, but can you go somewhere to extend that love and to carry on and really, take into more depth of your love for that? And really, there's no other place that you can except for, Prince's home in Minneapolis because we worked on it. But
right.
But there's nowhere else. There's nowhere else in the world that does the same thing that we do.
Let's talk about that for a moment because Graceland, I know that you guys behind the scenes were contacted by the Muhammad Ali group, by the Prince group, by different pop stars that people would have heard about for you to counsel and kind of give guidance.
Michael Jackson.
Yep. We've heard of him. But yet, and I was following along as you and the group were going through all these steps and trying to mentor the Prince group, the Michael Jackson group. You still just can't put that magic in a bottle. I have yet to see any of those come even close to what Elvis did. And I've tried to pin it down over the years, not just these decades, but the fact that his whole life was recorded.
Right.
He's accessible in those 50 years, teens. He's accessible in the 60s. There was a camera or a video camera or a still photography or something chronicling everything.
We have 90,000 photos in our collection.
Wow.
90,000.
And that's something else to talk about. Well, we're not going to get into it today because I'd love to make this an extra. In fact, we're going to talk about this afterwards. The archives and the things that you still have, some that haven't even been seen.
Exactly.
And okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. We're going to try to dive in a little deeper. What would you say, in your opinion, could be part of Elvis's legacy that might be maybe misunderstood? I want to ask you. We've known each other so long. I want to ask you some questions maybe you don't normally get. What's part of his legacy that maybe has been overlooked or misunderstood?
Gosh, this was probably the hardest question out of all the questions that you were like, I might ask you this. This was definitely the hardest one because I feel like, I guess it depends on who I'm talking about.
Okay.
And I think that if I have to look at it as in misunderstood, I kind of look at, Memphians a little bit because it's I hear it all the time. I've never been to Graceland. And I get that, right? Because, if you live in New York City, you don't go to the Empire State Building. And I feel like that's Elvis is misunderstood in that way that you look at Graceland as this, tourist trap. And it actually is, it's not that at all. It's this beautiful place that has shared so many stories, even obviously from when Elvis lived there till now, all of the things that we've accomplished since Graceland opened for tours in 1982. And I feel like itself as a whole is misunderstood in that way, right? Because I feel like if Memphians came, they would actually see what Elvis is all about. And so, that was really kind of the first thing that popped into my mind about being misunderstood because it's not just a house. It was Elvis's home, and we bring in, 500,000 people a year into Memphis, Tennessee, which directly affects Memphians. That's why it's this funny, circle that goes back to, no, we're bringing people here that love Memphis. And I'll tell you, I've actually met a lot of Elvis fans that have actually moved here, or they have bought, second homes here, or they come back to Memphis several times a year because they love it so much. It's really, that actually blew my mind, but I do know several fans, and if they ever watch this, they'll know I'm talking about them, but they have moved here.
Here's what I equate it to. Easily. When I was on air, I had a fellow meteorologist who was from Egypt. He's Egyptian, wonderful guy. And we were talking about Graceland, and he said, you know what? He said, most of his family still lives in Egypt. The pyramids are in his grandmother's backyard. She can see them from her back door.
Oh my gosh.
She's never been.
See,
she's never been.
Exactly the same thing.
Right. She is literally a mile or two from the Great Pyramids. And I feel like that's how Graceland is to Memphians. And so I'm constantly trying to say, especially with the vigil that we showed earlier, take a moment just to go and explore it. All right. This one is multi-layered. How has working behind the scenes for 18 years shaped you? And I say that giving you carte blanche. Say whatever you want, because I've been, so I didn't preface this. I worked with Alicia and the Graceland team for almost 20 years, and we're going to go through some of that. And so I had some behind the scenes sneak peeks, because the fans are passionate.
Oh, yeah.
And they like what they like. They're also, and I can say this, Alicia can't, they're opinionated. Let's just be honest. Having to, and they're guests. They are guests at Graceland. And you have to treat them as guests. You love that they're there. You want them to be there. When they're coming from all over the world, how does that shape you? I mean, because I would think it would make you like a ninja when it comes to public relations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I say this all the time on Sirius XM on Elvis Radio, because we do a show on Sirius XM, and I talk about, our work, and we really are passionate. If I wouldn't be there 18 years if I wasn't passionate and didn't care about what I did.
I know you love it.
And so there is a balance. But there is a group of us that you know very well that, we sit around a table and we talk through every scenario. We talk through all of our events. We're not just, not one person's making the decisions. We do them cohesively as a group, and that's because everybody who's been there longer than I have, really, we all have different opinions, and at the end of the day, it's all about, well, what are the fans going to think, and what do they want? And I promise you that's what we say. And again, we can't please everybody. You're never going to please everybody. No. But at the end of the day, we do love and care about them, because again, of what I just said, that they are passionate. People have moved here,
right.
And we want to take care of them, and they love us, which is so amazing to me, that I've gotten to know so many fans on a personal level.
They're like your family.
They are. They really are. There's this really, again, it's hard to describe.
It is
hard to describe this weird little dysfunctional family that we have at Graceland, but we all love each other.
Yeah.
And I that's why I encourage people to come to things like Elvis Week. That I'm like, if you're even not an Elvis fan, I can promise you're going to find somebody. They're going to take you by the hand, and they're going to go, "Let me show you."
Listen,
and everybody's just welcome and opening.
It's much akin to if you've ever been to Disney World, and the team that works at Disney World makes you instantly feel like this is your home, and what can we do? Any event during Elvis Week is that way, where people are just, even if they don't recognize you by face, they recognize you by kindred spirit.
Oh, yeah.
And they just pull you in.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me ask you this. Over the years, I was just trying to think of all the things you've had to go do. And I know that when I get this question sometimes about TV news in the past, whatever, what stands out, sometimes you're so overwhelmed you don't even know how to answer it, because you've done things from the Vegas openings with memorabilia to Disney World collaborations to seeing things change. Over 18 years, what jumps out at you? Like for me, if you're in the TV news world, going from no internet, no cell phone, to high-def TVs, I mean, we're talking about a major arc. How do those things impact you guys behind the scenes?
I mean, what's really fascinating is that, again, we could tell stories for days and days, and the really cool opportunities that have come up through Graceland would blow your mind, right? Like, I mean, again, we've had several exhibits that we've opened up around the world. Literally around the world. The last big exhibit that unfortunately I didn't get to go on, but just to show you the scale, it was in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
I mean, I would have never thought in all my years that we'd be going, okay, it's time to get an exhibit ready for Saudi Arabia, but like exhibits in Australia, like you said, Las Vegas. I mean, again, the global impact that Elvis has is just still beyond me sometimes. So we have been, involved in some really cool things. And I'm going, how much can I say? Like, what can I talk about?
And listen, and here's the thing. I'm going to help her out. what she sees as mundane, her day to day, would blow your mind. I've been in those meetings going, this is just another day for all of you. And somebody on the outside that was listening to the names mentioned or the events would go, my mind is boggled. And that's why I'm saying I know it's tough for you because it becomes your normal.
Right.
Right?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. And I'll bring this up because it is something that I kind of felt maybe fit a few of your questions that you were going to ask. But one of the biggest things that I've ever been involved in that I never thought in a million years would ever happen during my lifetime was to plan Lisa Murray's funeral.
Right.
And me and you talked about this at one point, and, it really was one of the, craziest. We planned that funeral in 6 days. It was 6 days that a team of 6 or 7 of us did. And just looking back on it, I go, we're a marketing department, and we are planning a funeral for, number one, a Presley. Who would have ever thought?
With the eyes of the world upon you.
Exactly. We're just going, I look back and I go, I can't believe we survived that one. But we actually, at the very end of it, I will say, we go through a bunch of events, right? And as you know, we're always pivoting. If you can't pivot on event, you don't know how to be in the events business because you have to plan for things to go wrong.
Right.
The day of that funeral, everything went perfectly. And every employee, it was like everybody came together. There was no
How rare is that?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so all of that to say, it was one of the hardest things we ever had to do. And, again, 6 days to plan, and it's a celebrity funeral on top of that. So
Right.
You've got press from around the world who are beating down your door. And I had to call in several favors to be like, please come help me. I can't handle this on my own. We're dealing with literally family.
Right.
We're dealing with the planning. And we're literally dealing with the people who were coming in to the funeral as well. So, Baz Luhrmann came. That was what a lovely thing,
The director of the Elvis movie, which was fantastic.
Which was, again, so wonderful of him to come. And Austin Butler came.
Yeah.
And, I'm sitting there looking at these lists of celebrities going, okay, this is what we're doing. And again, I could go on about this particular event because it was obviously monumental. It was monumental and also very, very sad. We're used to the upbeat, happy. We're here to entertain people. We're here to make, people's, dreams come true. And this was the toughest one because no one has a playbook on this. There was
and
no
you're all
script.
mourning. You're all mourning.
Right, exactly.
At the same time. You're sad.
Right,
you're broken.
right.
You knew her personally for many, many years.
Exactly. And there was no time for that. There was no time.
You have to compartmentalize and keep moving forward. I know that the guest list just of the notables was extensive. And now just looking at it kind of from 30,000 feet, there would have been dozens, if not hundreds, of notable names who would have loved to have been there.
Oh, sure.
Right. And you had to cull a list, make it at least logistically feasible.
Right.
Be sensitive to the family. Mm-hmm. What a monumental.
And every day we were getting, it was like every day there was a new person who was popping up on the, run of show, right? So every day it was like, okay, well, Axl Rose is going to be there. He's going to come and he wants to play a song on the piano. So we need to get a baby grand piano. And it was like, you don't really have much time to think. It's just like, okay, we got to do this.
Grand piano.
And then the next day it was, well, Alanis Morissette, she's going to be here and she's going to sing this new song. And I'm going, that's great. Well, what's the song? Tell me about this song. You still have to ask questions.
You have to vet it.
Right. You have to vet it. And so it was, again, we're so used to pivoting and making changes or whatever, but this one was just so different because the requests were so different, and you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with the loss of a huge icon. I mean, there's just really no other words around that. And I say that, again, it just sticks out to me because it was so heavy, but it was also, again, one of probably the biggest accomplishments that our team did because of the undeniable crazy circumstances.
And the magnitude. And we just kind of gloss over the tragedy of her following in her father's footsteps with an early passing.
Right.
You couldn't script something that tragic to play out on a global stage.
Right. And you take everything into consideration. I mean, we're thinking, you go, okay, there's going to be paparazzi. There's, how do we protect them? I mean, that's our job. We're trying to protect the family. We're trying to protect Lisa's kids. We're trying to, again, operate a tourist attraction. We're trying to plan a funeral. We're trying to get a tent for the front lawn. I mean, the whole thing was held on the mansion front lawn.
Right,
I mean, we're
right.
trying to handle it operationally, and then at the kind of the last minute, plans changed, and we decided, okay, we need to open this up to the public because people want to come. So we had planned 4 days into it with just a private funeral, and then nope, we had to pivot and change so the public could attend. So I mean, we've learned to roll with the punches, and that was definitely like probably the biggest undertaking we've ever had in all my time.
Well, and let's hope it doesn't get that big. All right, now I'm going to skip down some of these questions, and I want to ask you this.
Okay.
I have been fortunate and blessed to live in Memphis for a long time. I've been an Elvis fan for a long time. And so that means I've seen part of the evolution of how you've presented his story to the world. And back in my earliest memories, my high school friends and early college friends would be excited if they could get hired as a tour guide, a walking tour guide who would take small groups. And I believe at that stage, Elvis's aunt was still living in the house and was in the kitchen area daily. Aunt Delta. And so you didn't go in the kitchen because she was in there.
Right.
And so you would walk around, and here's a family member still living in the house. We progress from that as technology just quadruples and exponentially grows to where we've got Sony Walkman headphones and a big carry case on your side. One of my wife and I's first dates, we went to Graceland. Or then it got even more digital, and now it's more. How do you combine the nostalgia that we want and long for with the ever springboarding technological advances? How do you manage that?
It's a balance, right? It's a balance because, we did bring the tour into the, modern day with an iPad tour, right? And we knew that, there'd be people who might necessarily want it or like that idea. But what's interesting now is that you see the adults and they'll look at the iPad, but then you see the kids, they're looking down right at the iPad. They're still learning though. To me, it's like, okay, well, we should have opportunity for both people that, don't necessarily care for the technology, but also we have to grow with technology. I mean, Elvis did. He loved technology.
Right.
He was on the forefront of technology. So we kind of look at things that way too. But also, we also have to remember what we are and who we are. And with Elvis bringing that nostalgic feel, and that's what people love. Like, people want to think about a simpler time. They want to get transported back in time. And that's what Graceland is, right? It's not like we modernized the mansion. It's all, everybody says it's like a time capsule. You walk in and you immediately go, my grandmother had that ashtray in her house. We had that green shag carpet. So we know where I think the line is of saying, okay, keep the traditional in the way that people love and that's what they want, but finding those really unique ways to bring, kids and a younger generation in with technology. And I will say that, just on the sense of bringing in a new generation of Elvis fans, we don't have to have the highest of technologies. We just have to have people like Disney who put, a new Lilo and Stitch movie out and include Elvis in it, because it's things like that.
And you had a premiere at Graceland.
Right. And we couldn't have paid for that. So it's not like we planted that even years ago with the
remix.
with the old movie. I mean, we didn't pay for that. They came to us. That thankfully, these great movie directors love Elvis, and they like to find a way to include him. And same thing with Baz Luhrmann and Austin Butler in the Elvis movie that came out in 2022. I will tell you, this is what's so interesting to me. That that we put on a performing arts camp for kids, right?
Yes, which I love.
So
to bring in young kids. Kids.
I mean, and it's actually really great. It's really unique. We started this in 2018. This was an idea that came from our owner of the company, Joel Weinschenker, and he said put together a performing arts camp, and we said, okay, we'll figure it out. And so we, at the beginning, would get maybe 30, 40 campers, and we were very happy with that. We started to learn that these campers were Elvis fans because that's who we were marketing to. Their grandparents and parents, that's how they found out. And these kids are obviously, raised on Elvis. But after that movie came out in 2022, we did not spend a dime on marketing, and our numbers doubled.
Wow.
Because of that movie.
I bet.
And so anyways, all that to say is that these Elvis fans are growing. Everybody asks me, aren't the Elvis fans dying off?
No.
No, they're not.
No, and honestly, this is something that, of course, gets talked about over the years. It's also a business, is how do you continue to run a successful business while honoring this legacy? And if you go to the vigil, if you go to Graceland any time of the year, but especially in the summer or August, all ages. And again, I go back to, because it's always been a fascinating study for me. It's, I like music, but I'm not going to go to Sinatra's house.
Right.
I'm really not going to make a trip to Prince's. I'm not going to, Happy Valley or whatever Michael's place is, Magic Kingdom, I don't know. But when I think about his impact and just listen to him or put on any one of those 3 decades, it's still electric. I don't even know how to explain it. And when you live in Memphis, it's easy to make a meme out of anything.
Right.
And that's always aggravated the stew
Right.
out of me, is the tendency to, with anything or anybody, let's mock it, let's make it a caricature. But the real artists that you've seen walk behind the scenes, call for private tours, are still impacted and will create their music, their art, their work based on what they saw from him.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I know that those stars come through all the time and never get publicized because they want a private tour.
Right.
That are still out there producing content now that go, this guy was a touchstone.
Oh, absolutely. We even have an exhibit around icons that were influenced by Elvis Presley. That's exactly what the exhibit's called. And we have featured, you name it. We have Kiss featured in the exhibit.
Right.
Justin Timberlake is in the exhibit. Trisha Yearwood is in the exhibit. I could go on and on. Dolly Parton is in the exhibit. And even stars today, Post Malone,
Right.
Lainey Wilson, because they all participated in the NBC special that
Oh,
we
yeah.
did for Christmas a couple years ago.
Really good.
And again, all of those people that they put in that NBC special, they were Elvis fans. And so it makes sense for us to connect with these people because they're also torchbearers for us, because
Right.
they're reaching a whole nother demographic and generation that we can't do by ourselves. And so we try to embrace that. And I think that, having these, amazing people come through and help us tell our story is something that, like you said, nowhere else has that. And I also, again, going back to Memphis, and I give all of this credit to Jack Soden, our CEO.
Yeah.
He was there the day that Graceland opened, and this is what he told me, and I'll never forget it, and I will always tell people this, that really the stars aligned for Graceland to open because, again, Memphis, being in the location that we are in, being pretty much in the middle of the country at the crossroads of 2 major interstates going north and south and east and west. That's why we're a great transportation hub, right?
Right,
Obviously
right.
FedEx and, the water and the river and everything else. But we get a bunch of travelers because of that, because of where we're located. A lot of people say, we were just passing through.
Right.
And that's the truth. Memphis, we might not be the week-long destination, but people are traveling, north and south and east and west, and they go, oh, we want to stop by. To compare it to Paisley Park, Prince's home in Minneapolis, you're not passing through Minneapolis.
Correct. It's
And
a destination.
So it's a destination. And so that's why I genuinely believe that Graceland has had the success that it is. Again, yes, Elvis is a phenomenon. We could talk about it all day long and still never really put our finger on
Right.
what is it about Elvis, because there's so many things. But the fact that we have Graceland and it's in Memphis, plus on top of that, another fun fact is that, and you remember back in the day when the tours were open and the property across the street where the shuttles and everything ran out of, that's really the only reason why we were able to open as a tourist destination, because it was zoned commercially. Otherwise, Graceland would not have been able to operate if it would have been surrounded in a residential area.
That's right.
Because, really, that's why Neverland, Michael Jackson's home, it's in a neighborhood. And you have to really get the neighbors on board to open up a huge tourism development.
I see.
And,
I see what you're saying.
And so, again, that's why I say all the
You
stars
had to have
aligned.
the infrastructure.
Yeah, all the stars aligned to be able to make this what it is. And, again, even if it was in another city, think about it. In LA, I still don't think it would have been as successful, but we are right in the middle of the country on 2 major interstates that people frequent all the time. We know how busy the interstates are,
Yeah.
but that is a really huge, huge piece to this puzzle.
Well, and let me add a few things here as well. Opposite Graceland, that land over the years has been expanded. Graceland has taken it over and built it out. And I've been really impressed at the ambition and energy to grow. In other words, you've got the sound stage where, we did and you still do the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Contest. You have current music there. You'll see billboards all over Memphis. Who's going to be performing there? Sometimes it's a comedy act, I think, or you've got music in there. I've seen the Van Gogh exhibit there. You had Pompeii in there. You've made it a kind of a hub. And I remember, we're going to go down memory lane, and I'm not going to keep you here all day, but I remember at one point, before all that was being built out, being in Jack's office, and I think this is when Scott Williams was still there as well, talking about what the vision is for that side of the street, or what could it all be. And
right.
Just so you understand how big they think at Graceland, there were so many, it would make a wonderful book, thoughts about, should we make it a gospel road, to how music in the South contributed to this? Should we make it, constantly thinking of how to bring Elvis, the impact, and really all music into more of people's persona and perception. I mean, you guys are constantly planning. You don't have to crack the book open on that, but I just know.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna go through a couple of pictures here in a moment. All right.
Okay.
Let me ask you this before I get into the selfish part of this.
Okay.
Any behind the scenes thoughts that jump into your head? Because like I said, this is hard for you because it's so mundane. What's normal to you, mundane is, Jerry Seinfeld called and wants a tour, right? That's right. Normal.
Depending on your day, you're like, God, they called and I'm in the middle of 400 things, I mean, like, it just depends on the day, right?
Well, and I know you work 365 days a year. That's the other reason why I know you love it, because you've been there so long and it is a commitment. I mean, there's no days off. Anything behind the scenes? I've got one that I'm going to tell. Anything that you would tell.
What's yours?
You want me to go first? So years ago, I was doing. We had a special we were doing at Graceland. You guys were kind enough to let us come into the house. It was closed at the time, and everything was like being in church, right? When you go into Graceland, you really feel like it's a very
holy,
special, set apart.
There's a feeling.
There is, and you don't want to touch anything.
Right.
However, we were told we could film in the jungle room. And of course, I'm like, good grief, I'm standing in the jungle room. And so I had my photographer with me, just the two of us. I forget what was going on. It may have been the American Idol weekend or something. Okay, yeah. So my photographer had to walk out. And so I'm sitting there by myself, look around, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to sit on this couch. I hope the alarm doesn't go off. I hope the lasers don't trip. I hope the cage doesn't fall down. And so I sat down on that couch, the famous couch, put my arms out like that.
Oh my God.
And I just kind of closed
Joey.
my eyes. And you know what I hear? I hear something moving to my right. And I open my eyes, and there's a little walkway right next to the thing.
Right, yeah.
Priscilla Presley.
Oh no.
is just standing there looking at me. And I thought, I'm having a stroke. I don't really see that.
You couldn't even get up
fast
fast
enough. I couldn't even move. I'm just looking at her like this. And she goes, I promise you, she just looked at me and she goes, and I had not met her prior to this. She goes, you look really good there. And she just walked off. To this day.
Okay, well.
To this day.
That's a really great story that I don't think I've ever heard before.
It was, I was scared to tell it until this moment.
Well, trust me, I've never sat on a couch before, Joey.
No. I know you haven't.
But I have kind of a similar, not similar story, but I'll tell you about a behind the scenes jungle room story that is near and dear to my heart, especially talking about Lisa Marie. Back in, I think might have been like 2008. It could have been 2012. I can't remember, but this was back in like the AOL days, right?
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it was AOL that was coming in. She did a session in the jungle room. Like, we had to move out all of the furniture to do this shoot because they filmed it, and I don't remember if it was live, but so we had, you're talking about like this massive crew, her band, we're having to move all the furniture, and the house really isn't all that big.
Right.
So everybody's being really cautious, and I'm one of the people, because that's part of my job is handling, film requests and shoots and things like that at the house. And so again, I was fairly new at the time because I started in 2007, and Lisa comes inside, and I remember I'm standing in the living room, and if you turn and you look through the kitchen, you're seeing the jungle room. And so I see Lisa talking to Angie Marchese, who's been at Graceland for, gosh, I think it's like 35 years. Sorry, Angie, I can't remember. It's a long time. But she's standing there talking to her, and I can't hear what they're saying. But all I see is, mind you, she had asked the house to be cleared out of everyone. Lisa had come in and she was like, I want it cleared. I want to see what it looks like. She didn't want people running around. But I knew to stay in the front of the house because that's just part of our like protocol, is just to make sure like, okay, I'm going to be have a presence. Yeah. I'm not bothering you. I'm just making sure that no one comes through this front door. And so I look over and she looks at me, and all I could see her is go like this. And Angie looks over, and I was like, oh no. And I could see her mouth go, who's that? And I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. I was like, I don't know what to do. I just so like slowly stepped backwards. So I was like, she's going to fire me because I'm still in here. Yeah. Like, yeah, what do I do? And so it is still like an ongoing joke today. Like I talk about it all the time because I'm like, I've never been more terrified that I was going to get fired just for standing there and I hadn't done anything. But she didn't know who I was. And so the funnier part to that is, so now, and again, for everybody who asks questions about Riley Keough, her daughter, who is so amazing. She is truly, I'm so impressed by her. She is a rock. She has the most like solid like foundation, like her 2 feet are on the ground. She's got a great head on her shoulders, and she's really great to be around. She's really sweet. But there was a time not that long ago that she came back to Memphis to film some stuff inside the house, and Angie was up at the house with her, and she called me and was like, hey, Angie was like, I need to step outside, but can you come and stand inside the house? Again, we have to have a presence. If there's people inside, again, we're protective. That's our job. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come up. And so I came in and I just stayed in the foyer right at the front door. And they were pulling a prank on me is what they were doing. And Riley comes out from the kitchen and she goes, who are you? She did the exact same thing to me that her mother did because Angie told her the story. And I was like,
that's great.
And in that moment I said, that's a really funny story to me, right?
That is really good.
And so we laughed for a really long time. And I was like, she has a really good sense of humor. And
that's really good.
Yeah, it's just always been this great story that I go, yeah, I thought I was going to get fired the day Lisa got everybody out of the house and I stayed in there.
That's awesome. All right, before I get into selfish, have you ever been starstruck by somebody that came in? Ooh. You see so many famous people. Does the answer might be no. You might be so jaded with celebrity.
Well, and I will tell you, I really don't get starstruck because, again, that's such a huge part of my job. And I think that's why, God put me in the position to be in this job, because I know that they're just like us, and I know how to talk to people, and I know how to treat celebrities. It just comes second hand to me. But I think the only time, and I wouldn't even call it starstruck, just more impressed and going, oh my God, was when we met Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Okay.
And we gave his tour.
I think my wife would agree with you.
He literally could barely fit through the door frame. He
was that big.
He's huge, but as sweet as can be. And I mean, this was not that long ago, a couple years ago, when they had the show that was filming here.
Yeah.
Young Rock, is that right?
Yeah.
He had come in town, and anyways, he had an entourage of people. He had an entourage of security, but you wouldn't have known it. He was just as sweet as could be, and sent like this handwritten thank you note to Angie and I afterwards.
How come?
That was, I just go, I know why he's successful.
Yeah.
Because of the stuff that people don't see
Isn't
behind
it nice to hear? It's nice to hear that kind of story.
Oh, so nice.
Because there's so much of the opposite.
Right.
Which you're being very kind not to point out right now, because I know you've seen that as well. All right.
But you know what about that, though? I'll say that we get a little bit of things that, aren't so nice. But honestly, when people come to Graceland, they're excited to be there. They're on vacation, and who's not happy when they're on vacation? So we rarely deal with, people who have set up a tour. They wanted to be there. They wanted to tour. It's very rare that I have to, go, okay, they're not having a good time and I've got to figure out a way to fix this.
Yeah.
It really rarely happens, but we deal with that on more like the event side of stuff when it's like someone's stressed because they need to get to the show and then they're working. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, for those of you who don't have video, you're about to miss out. I would say to you, get somewhere you can look. And this is the selfish part of me, because I have taken photos my whole life of everywhere I've been. And part of that has been my fortunate time at Graceland. So here's the first one. This is 2004.
Oh, Joey.
21 years ago for the Vigilcast, talking about technology.
Right.
Just to kind of give you guys a sense, and I'm going to flip through a few of these pretty quick.
Oh, I love
We were at the
this.
front gates.
That's right. And there's Scott.
There's Scott. And what we did was we thought, really, it was the team, and they were kind enough to bring me in as part of the group. They said, let's take the Candlelight Vigil, and we've got this new thing called the internet.
Right, yep.
And let's broadcast it so the world can see it. And people were tuning in from every nation. And we had beautiful shots, calm shots. I would interview someone, and so would, I think Rod Starnes was out there.
Yep.
Just a magical time. And this is one of the very first years. There's Rod Starnes,
yep.
Jennifer, I believe, Hendren, who was Scott's boss at the time, I
Yep.
think. And you were talking about this guy, Jack Soden.
Oh, there he is.
And
Aw.
Jack told me a story one time about when they first opened, when you guys first opened, he and Regina were out there. It was the night before the opening, and they couldn't sleep. So he said he got up and walked to the driveway and was just sweeping.
Yep.
And he goes, "Is this going to be a complete bust?
Right.
Are we going to have a disaster here?" And he said, as the sun rose and they could finally see, there were like 1,000 people out by the gate.
Right.
On that very first day.
Right.
And that's how the whole thing started.
Yeah,
So-
he likes to tell the story that they were, sending out an invitation to a party and no RSVPs. You didn't know who was going to show up. And they ended up selling out, I think every tour that whole first week. And they go, okay, well, let's see if we can do it again next week. And then they did, and they just kept selling out over and over again. And
that's how
and
you
here
eat
we
an
are.
elephant, a bite at a time. All right, great story. And by the way, anything that pops into your head while we're going through these, I want to hear it. Okay. Also, for those of you who don't know, the Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Contest was a huge part of my life and still is for many, many years. I was fortunate enough to be in some of the very first meetings when we came up with the concept. I don't know if I could tell this story or not. I guess I could.
Uh-oh.
Well, at one point, I almost came on board to run the contest
Oh, sure,
as
yeah.
a secondary corporation.
Right.
But Graceland did a phenomenal job with it. I did it between 2007 and 2021. This was so long ago.
Yeah.
Jay Dupuis, do you recognize
Yeah,
anybody
I
else?
was going to say, that's Jay, that's Dwight.
Dwight?
His name is slipping me, but I know who that is.
So many years ago.
But I don't know what year this is.
I think it was 07 or 08.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're
So,
talking
one of
like
the
a
first,
long time ago.
yeah.
I kind of went
Oh,
back into the
wow.
archives, and this is another year where I dressed. I thought I'm going to dress like him in the.
If I Can Dream.
Yep, and and this is one of the guitars that we gave away. Okay, again, I'm being selfish.
I love it, though.
Now we're going to flip to 2012. This was the Elvis cruise.
The cruise.
To the Bahamas, which was a blast. I got to meet a ton of people. I will tell you one funny story. I was on a stage.
Oh, I know these ladies.
You know these ladies?
They still come every year.
Do they?
Yes.
Listen, to get on a boat and say, let's go rock out with
This was
Elvis.
what, 2012 maybe?
This was 2012.
2012.
2012,
see?
yeah.
They all still come to
13
Elvis
years ago, we did a show in the amphitheater. I'd never been on a cruise ship before in my life. And what I quickly learned was that when I got on stage to help MC the event, when you're on stage on a boat looking at the audience, there's giant windows at the back. And so as I'm looking at them, I could see the ocean doing this, and I was going, brrr.
Was that the year that, because we did several cruises, was that the year you got stuck at sea?
Correct.
Okay, that was the Hurrah cruise. That's what we called it.
Right. Everything ended up good. Okay. And now this one I love. This was when we went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was the 40th anniversary. So for those of you who don't know, Elvis did a satellite show from Hawaii. And on the 40th anniversary, the Graceland team recreated everything, including this is at the actual Coliseum where Elvis performed.
At the Blaisdell.
That's it. And so on stage, they had giant screens and a live band. And so people were able to see him perform again on that monumental, one of the first satellite shows in the world that was seen by millions of people, a really watershed moment.
Angie even took the jumpsuit that he wore, the American Eagle jumpsuit, back into the dressing
She did.
room, right?
I almost put that photo up
Yeah.
there so you could walk into the dressing room where Elvis got dressed, and they had set up all of his actual jumpsuits. And just for you, this is a good shot. This is the whole
my gosh.
crew.
Yeah,
Kevin
that's
Kern,
so-
there's Carla.
That's so great.
The
And
swear
Amy.
engines. Yep, Amy and Angie. Lots of fun there. All right, listen. I have kept you here, and I could continue to talk.
I know. We could talk all day.
We've got a lot of fun coming up next week. Anything that I didn't ask or cover you would want to throw in, because there's so much to say about his impact, and I kind of laugh sometimes when I talk to people and they like don't get it. They don't get it. And I just want to go, you read a Peter Guralnick book, or just take a moment to do a little bit of research to see what this guy did and how complicated he was. And at heart, he really had a great heart as an individual. You know, if you're a Memphian, I would encourage you to go just take the time to take a trip and experience it. There's so much to do out there. What would you suggest? What would you say to somebody who doesn't have any, you know, they're like, I don't know anything about it.
And I know plenty of those people, okay, right? I know plenty of them because they probably think, you are crazy. You work all the time. Like, what is it that you do? And that's always a fun question to answer. I say half the time, I really don't know. It depends on the day. But I would say that, you know, again, obviously Elvis Week, there are so many people that are around. And again, it's great people watching. But also I feel like you have to come open-minded, right? Like you have to want to kind of learn. I don't want to force you to come. But I also want you to know like how impactful Elvis is not only around the world, and that's such a huge thing, but to Memphis, especially Memphians. Like that's who I try to reach every day, is get to the people who it's in your backyard. Like it is right here. I go to work
right here
every day. I'm born and raised a Memphis girl, and this is what I do every day. So it really kind of blows me away that, you know, when I hear people go, you know, I've never been to Graceland, and they're proud of it, and I'm like, well, you just don't really know then. And so, again, we've tried to add, you know, like you said, the shows. Like we have Graceland Live. We get shows booked in by Live Nation. And that was, again, another thing to try to get younger people locally, to come out and see what we have, see our complex, see the hotel. I mean, I'm sure you've stayed at the Peabody. I have too. Well, we have a beautiful hotel.
It's beautiful.
And that's the thing. I encourage people to come and like have a staycation. Just see what we have. And again, come with an open mind. Because again, Elvis changed Memphis and he changed the world, and he's literally right here. We have him in the palm of our hands.
Hey, by the way, if you have not heard or seen of the guest house at Graceland, they built this beautiful hotel right next door to Graceland that has fantastic architecture that sort of mimics the feel, but you even have a gorgeous theater in the middle of the hotel. It's honestly, it's phenomenal. I've been in there for a few shows, and it's right in the middle of the hotel. Restaurants, there's so much going on over there, and the music they're getting at the guest house or at on the stage is just some great bands.
Yeah, great acts. I mean, again, I never thought that this would actually work. Again, being from Memphis, I was like, you know, I don't think people really do this, and I was wrong. Actually, there've been a lot of Memphians who have come out and support us, and you know, I'm so thankful for that. But it actually is something that, you know, at the end of the day, is going to keep growing. We're not stopping.
Yeah.
I mean, there's again, we have a great owner who, you know, wants us to keep building and expanding because it's important to him and it's important to the legacy. And then also, again, all of the people that are employed by us. I mean, again, we're you know, in the Whitehaven community, and we employ so many people in the neighborhood, and we're constantly looking for ways to expand that. And again, that's supporting local.
Yeah,
so
100%.
You know, it is a crazy place, but it's a great place. And you know, I just hope that people again have an open mind, come see us. There's something for everybody. Like again, whether it's Elvis Week or whether you're just coming to tour or stay at the hotel, I can promise you that once you dip your toes in, you're not going to want to get back out of the water.
We had some friends who called me the other day. They had just decided, he and his wife, we're going to go stay at the guest house. We've never been. We're going to do a staycation. And he called me and he went, I had the weirdest moment while I was in the hotel. I go, what happened? He said, well, we just had the TV on in the background playing the in-house stuff. Yep. And he goes, and I hear your voice announcing the Ultimate Tribute Artist winner from like 2018.
Like Joey?
He goes, what is he doing in my room? Friends, listen, from one of my favorite things, and my wife's as well, that we saw over in the complex was the Van Gogh immersive exhibit. It was amazing. Keep your eyes peeled. If you're out of Memphis and watching this and you're coming through, make plans to stop by and see it. Look for Alicia. She'll be walking around. Or if you're from Memphis, and I know we have a lot of Mid-Southerners who watch this and are listening, go take advantage of the pyramids that are in your backyard. Go marvel at the wonder, because I've said this over and over. I think it was such a unique situation. The tragedy of Elvis's passing, he did it at one of the most ostentatious times in our history. So it's frozen in the 70s. Wouldn't have been as interesting to me if it had been frozen in the 90s or, you know, when things were minimalist. It's just, it's life. It's so organic. So Alicia Dean, I've just had a fantastic time talking to you.
Joey, thank you for having me. This
Listen,
was the best interview that I've ever done.
We could really, I told her let's just have fun with it and let it go, and we'll have you back. We'll talk about more stuff. Yeah. Hey, I want to thank Lexus of Memphis again. Phenomenal people, phenomenal product, and I want to tell you as well.
Thank you, Lexus.
See, another Lexus owner. I keep getting Lexus owners here. And friends, if you've got a comment or an idea, email us, thecurrenttemp@gmail.com. And as I mentioned, you'll be able to watch this on my Facebook page. We've got a YouTube channel you can subscribe to, The Current Temp, and on Spotify as well. Alicia Dean.
Thank you, Joey.
Good to see you.
Thank you.